I'm John Shrek, the sheriff of Baghdad. This podcast, what we're going to talk about is night vision, entry-level night vision. I'm here with my guest. I'll let her introduce herself. He's a night vision guy. Go ahead and tell everybody who you are, kind of what you do, and we'll get going from there.
Yeah, so I'm Micah Garrison. I am the head salesman of Gear Central Supply, and I deal in all things night vision. So that's the reason I'm here on the show.
Awesome, man. So I sent a couple people your way, we just started kind of talking from there. Look, and I'll just open it up with this, right? And we can go from there. I think there is a lot of popularity with night vision. Having said that, social media says one thing, and I believe that at the same time, what social media is telling you to do may not be actually what you need for your uses, right? Having said that, where would you start a first time night vision purchaser out? Where would you kind of start them and why?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, having said that, what you said before, a lot of the social media influencers and a lot of the individuals out there are marketing people towards what's available to them as dealers and what has the highest margin and profit. So they're not always worried about the consumer and what fits them the best as much as filling their pocket and what has the best profit margin. So that's something to keep in mind when a salesman is trying to sell you a product, is they are selling it from their own financial benefit just as much as providing you with what you need. But as for what to start with as a beginner, I try to find out the individual's budget and provide them with a unit that best fits their budget and how they can benefit by maximizing their budget. It also isn't beneficial for the user to go over their budget and need to sell it in a month and lose money on the backside, because I see that happen plenty also.
Yeah, I would say budget's a huge thing, and I also think in a lot of the guys I train, guys ask me all the time what they should buy, and I think it not only is it budget driven, but also most guys, they don't mind spending the money, right? Because none of this is cheap, right? The night vision game is not, this ain't something you're just gonna pick up for $20 at Walmart, right? So because it's a lot
to have superpowers.
Yeah, for real, right? For real. Great way to put it. A lot of guys, it's kind of the buy once, cry once mentality.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think that's why so many guys come to me, and look, I've always been fascinated with night vision. And, and we've talked about this before, but I was the only guy I knew that had a set of Anvis goggles at his house in the mid-90s, and my kids, when they were like 3, we'd be in the backyard, I'd be letting them running around with my Anvis goggles, and they thought that was normal. Right. You know what I mean? And So I see all this night vision out there, and I see the internet, man, the influencers and all these guys, but the truth is I don't think a lot of the industry understands night vision at a high level. And I don't think they understand, being a former unit guy, we were wearing Anvis goggles. Hey, Black Hawk Down, those guys had Anvis goggles on the ground. You know what I mean? The Rangers didn't even have night vision. You know what I mean? And the unit guys had helmet mounted, goggles. They just didn't have them with them at the time, right? So I think there's a lot of history there, of how night vision got to where it is. And I think that what you see on social media or the marketing of it kind of embraces none of that.
Absolutely. It's all about cool facts on social media for the most part.
For real, right? So, okay, let's talk about, excuse me, let's talk about monotubes, right? One eye. The military went to the PVS-14 years ago. Kind of interesting. One of my last jobs is I used to go to the night vision labs at Natick all the time. And the Army was buying the 14. They had already had them, but like it wasn't like everyone needs, right? So
right.
As the Army was transitioning to the mindset of everyone needs night vision on their helmet, right? I was kind of advising them because, well, we were already doing, canvas goggles themselves, not a one eye, and also we had just produced the first fusion stuff. And we were moving on to that. And, so I, as a sergeant major, had to go to the night vision lab. And, it was interesting. They're like, yeah, we're going to go to the PVS-14 per soldier. And when you're buying as many as the Army is, the price does drastically go down. And I would say this, at the time, as many as they buy, goggles weren't that much more than, a 14. And, the night vision guys asked me because as an observer of what they're doing and as a guy who represents, the 1% of special operations who have been doing this a while, I told them, don't buy the 14 for everybody. Buy goggles.
Right.
And they're like, why? And I'm like, you got drivers, you got, you know what I mean? Like, buy goggles for everybody. And, guess where the world's going? It's goggles. So, the PVS-14 is one eye, right?
Yep.
What are you seeing these days for 14? How are the guys using them?
Yeah, so the 14 is a fantastic unit because it is so capable and can be used in so many ways. It does everything but does nothing well, as I like to put it. Because you can theoretically rifle mount it to something that was 223 or smaller. Then you can use it as a scanning tool. You can use it as head mounted, and you can clip it on behind a spotting scope and get a lot more range out of it. But that being said, it really does not do any of them well. It just does them all to a degree. I have also talked to individuals that were special forces and the Army, and they said there's times where they preferred running the PVS-14 because they needed one eye observing when they're clearing and breaching and one eye under night vision, depending on the ambient conditions. And then other guys that are special forces say that goggles are the way to go. You probably have a better way in on that with your previous background.
I would say this. This is, yeah, you need your good eyes gotta have your night fire capability. I think this is kind of funny because that's what, night vision labs, when I'm like, no guys, you want to run goggles and a laser. This is easier to do at night. When you go into a lighted area, A, you could look under the goggles, or B, just flip them up.
Correct.
And they were like, well, and that's what the scientists told me. Well, we gave them to a bunch of privates in the 101st and, and they prefer to have their good eye night vision ready for their rifle. And I was just kind of like, okay, guys. There's no difference, in my opinion, between the unit and an infantry guy. There's no difference. Except for the unit guy has done probably 10 years of infantry shit. You know what I mean? And,
right.
and, is expected to do more, right? But how do you get a guy to do more? That do more is, better technology, right? So, I love when guys tell me that they need to save their firing eye for the night vision. I think it's kind of ridiculous. We've done studies and science on this and spent millions of dollars on this and found there's actually no scientific claims that that's better. Now, having said that, this also, I think this goes to the lighting conditions. Think about this. You're standing next to a breach, and when we just touch off a huge charge to get inside a building, you think even with your good eye closed, which implies you've gotten to this point with only one eye, by the way, you think when you close that good eye when the charge goes that you can't see light through the eyelid.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I also say this is like the eyes changing from truly being in the dark to light is probably a 20, 30 minute process, right? So most guys argue that fact. Now, I will say that this is the beauty of this situation with 14 is once in a great while we would do very long walk-ins in the western Iraq desert to a target, right? We do like 20K, 40K a night because they're going to hear the helicopters, so you can't even get close, right? So once in a while I would wear a 14 when we were going to do one of these super long walks. And what I would do is I would put it down. I get my eyes adjusted to, the night, right? So, we'd stop for a minute, just kind of chill, doing the stills, whatever you want to call it, right? Getting everyone's eyes used to the night. And then what I would do is when I'd use a 14, I would dial it down. So with my naked eye, with maybe some ambient, illumination, let's just say I could see 70 yards clear.
Yep.
I would dial the gain down on the PVS 14, which is one of the, love the gain knob, by the way. And I would dial it down to where the night vision was just bright enough to where I could see 100 yards, 150 yards. Like I could just see into the super dark spot. And that would keep me either in kind of my eyes in night mode or my eyes in day mode. Now, most of the time, like depending on the walk, right? Most of the time, if we walked and we were going to be out in the desert, no ambient light, no nothing, I would kind of do that. If we were walking to like a lighted urban area, I just wear goggles. But I love the gain option on a 14 is a very smart option that I wish the Anvis would have had.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of not in between gains or not. That's where I do like the dual gain on like PVS 31s a lot is they do not set your true gain. They set your high end gain, which means it won't let them gain up any higher, but they still work within that perimeter. I wish a lot more goggles have that. I'm not a huge fan of having to reach up all the time when you're switching from like a vehicle with infrared light to getting out of the vehicle and no infrared light. So it's nice to have the auto gain ability, but it would be nice to have more goggles with the dual gain aspect.
Yeah, I completely agree. So the 14, that's one of the things I really like about it is.
Yep.
Now, let me ask you this. Would you recommend a PVS 14, right, being the mono, over PVS 7, which sends one image to both eyes?
I would personally, just from the size aspect of it, the weight and the fatigue, and you have more capability with a 14, using it in different ways and methods. And there is some distortion with PVS 7s, and tubes have not stayed up to date as much as 14 tube.
Yeah, I like personally, I like the 7 set up better because you don't get that vertigo or that weird, you're using one eye, you're using the night vision for a long period of time, and then like you're not using it. Your vision gets weird for a little bit. I like the 7 for that reason, and I have an old pair of 7s, believe it or not, don't laugh. And I had them updated with a better tube. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of amazed how good they were with a little bit better tube.
Yeah, no, if you update the tube to the latest one, it's a great goggle. Their latest tubes are Omni 7, which have the same spec standard as an Omni 8, really. So they can be a great tube. A lot of people give them a bad rap because they see them with Charlie tubes that are not auto-gated and they're old like Omni 4.
Yeah. I've seen some pictures of guys like with some of the older night vision, mid-90s goggles, like even the pilots were probably struggling to see shit compared to nowadays, I always like to look at these old night vision pictures. It's all grainy and like, it's kind of amazing how far it's come. Okay, so back to the 14, right? I think this is good entry level stuff for the average guy, right? Yep. I will say although the PVS 7s might be better because it's 2 eyes with 1 tube versus 1 eye with 1 tube, right? I do agree that the 14 is way more versatile for other stuff. You know what I mean? You couldn't mount a 7 to a gun, nor would I want to, right? So if you were going to have the ability to mount it on a rifle, which I kind of don't do, but I understand it for hunters, guys who aren't going to be, holding a rifle for a long time, I understand it. That 14's way more versatile.
And I don't recommend mounting it on a rifle. But at the same time, it's nice to be able to throw a 14 in your pocket. Nobody notices you have night vision and having that capability on you, whereas you can't hide a 7.
Right. Or a set of goggles.
Right. And if you buy a PVS 14 first, you can always keep it, and it can be your travel unit when you don't need goggles, scanner unit. It's a great back where PVS 7. All you're doing is being redundant, and it's not as good a quality.
Yeah, no, the 14 is incredibly versatile, for a lot of aspects. I know a lot of my buddies in Texas that are hog hunting, they'll mount a 14 on their gun only because they're sitting in one place, they're looking at one small area, you know what I mean? Matter of fact, the gun's rested generally off of something, whether it's the windowsill of the of the blind or, something, right? But, I think it's very versatile.
Yeah. My major concern with mounting PVS 14 on a rifle is the fact that a 14 has no buffering in it internally. So it's hard on the tube with taking recoil.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely wouldn't mount it on a 308 if I could.
Right. Absolutely not.
Okay, so let's see. I'll tell you the biggest downfall, I think, to the PVS 14 is the on-off switch, right? And a lot of guys, right, and I can't tell you how many times I hear this, they go buy their first PVS 14, right? They start helmet mounting it. They're with other guys that might have other night vision. And, they're out, they have a fun night of shooting, they get the ends done, they're shooting or whatever they're going to do at night. They have a beer or two, and then the next morning when they're cleaning up their gear, they put the night vision up, they folded it up off the mount on the helmet, they forgot to turn it off, and now they have permanent, pine tree burned into their night vision, which I have a picture.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that I personally don't like about the night vision, the 14, is the on-off. I think if the 14 had a powered mount where it was up, it was off. If it's down, it's on. And then if you did it somewhere else, a handheld, right, then maybe, a switch or, a battery pack. I think the 14 would be a lot better.
Right. No, I mean, I agree that it would be nice if it had a powered on-off mount. At the same time, I've seen that become an issue with non-baldy tints because, like, for instance, PBS 15s are powered on, powered off when they're flipped up and down. What I've seen people run into issues is they think their unit is off when they click it to that position and flip it up, and then they'll put it in storage and they'll flip it down, not realizing it just turned it back on. And they will burn their room into their PBS 15. So.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing I do, and like, I don't clean my guns. I'm not scrubbing my gear. You know what I mean? Like, matter of fact, I'm hard on everything I own, but at the end of the night, I will, like, have several sets of night vision. If I was out, take some guys out. We're just screwing around, right? I will take all the batteries out of every piece of night vision I have at the end of the night. You know what I mean? I am taking no chance.
And that's an awesome habit, and that's what I recommend to people. That is the safest way to avoid unwanted burns.
Yeah, because, I mean, think about this. Okay, so hypothetically, you buy a new PBS 14, right?
Yep.
Okay. If you burn the tube and the next day you had to get a new tube, is that tube more than the night vision you just bought in comparison?
So, like, for instance, if you went and bought a $2,500 green PBS 14 and you burn the tube, have to go get a new tube, you're looking at about $2,000 to replace the tube in that. So you just ate a pretty good chunk of change by leaving your battery on or your unit on.
Yeah, what's always amazing to me is if you broke something on a 14, besides the tube, fixing it is almost nothing. You plug up the tube and you might as well go buy a new one.
Yep. Like on a 14, the most you can really be if you break something, $250 for like a front objective.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you this. We talked about budget. What would you say? Okay, so I'm a new guy. I know nothing about night vision. What do you think my entry level budget should?
Are we talking for just a unit or a whole helmet setup?
Well, yeah. So if I bought a 14, right, I'm probably going to need a helmet. I'm going to need a mount. And I'm probably going to need some type of IR laser, right? Because if I'm going to wear out on my helmet, right, I want to have some way to aim my weapon.
Yep.
What do you think that budget should be?
I would say minimum, absolutely minimum, would be $3,500. Because that's going to get you a $2,500 green unit. That's going to get you an okay helmet, an okay mount, and J-arm, nothing special. And then that's going to leave like $500 or $600 for a D-ball. And that's the bottom of the line D-ball. So I would say 4,000 is going to get you better gear and going to make you feel a lot happier, than 3,500 will. But I would say you can get a setup for 3,500. You're just going to have to buy a few things secondhand.
Yeah. Helmets, like, guys all the time ask me about helmets, and my helmet logic is, especially with there's so many like plastic skateboard helmets out there these days, like you could kind of get away with any helmet. You could go buy a plastic kid's bike helmet and screw something on the front and it would probably work. Is it great? No, it's not great, but it would actually work if you were trying to save money. I think that's one place you could save money. The mount, I would tell you this, is like, I live on Fort Bragg. I can go get a PBS 14 Army J-arm, as many as I want, for like next to nothing. Now, I would say, you're getting what you pay for. You're buying used Army shit.
Right.
right?
And
So
rattles, it's not solid. I mean,
I agree.
Naruto's J-arm and Naruto's mount, they are fine for beginners, for people that aren't real users, but if you're going to actually run a PBS 14, I really suggest getting a Wilcox G24 and a Wilcox arm because that's a very solid mount. You don't have any of the rattle in it. It's very adjustable. And when you're ready to upgrade tools, you already have the mount for it.
Oh, man, I don't disagree with you at all on that, but I have had a few guys that were like, hey, I just bought a 14. I'm like, dude, just go down to the Army gear stores right outside Post. You know, I don't, and
you're not going to
pick it up
much because you're only in it for $50.
Right. However, and that's a great point, if you do plan on upgrading later, if you got a legit mount, you could go to as soon as you bought your, another night vision and got a bridge, you already have the mount for it. So, that's such a kind of pro tip is if you bought the good mount, when you upgrade, you still have the good mount.
Exactly. You're ready to go.
Yeah. So about $3,500 for would be a little bit better for entry level night vision.
Yep.
Now, all right. So I'm going to ask you this. I know we've talked about this before, but for the guys that are listening, okay, white phosphorus tube versus green.
I would say to the general consumer, white phosphorus is going to be more pleasing to the eye immediately. If you spend a lot of time under both, you're not going to see a huge amount of difference. It's going to be the initial shock of the white because it's closer to a black and white TV versus a green and black TV, which people are unfamiliar with. So it's closer to what you're familiar with already. That's what makes it better, I would say, for a lot of people. And the perceivable contrast does appear to be better. We've talked about it before. The labs say it is the same. General rule of thumb, I prefer white, but same time, there are studies saying that white is giving people more eye fatigue and doing more detriment to your eye than green is.
Yeah. You know where I stand on this. I'm a green guy, and, the studies that we funded, the only difference between the two is if you were going to wear your night vision for 8 hours a night, you would have more eye fatigue with white than green. Now, with modern night vision, if you had a dimmable night vision, right? When we talked about this, the 31s now have a dimmable feature, and, maybe that somehow would factor into this equation as well on probably the side of white, because if you could dim it down, you're less likely to fatigue your eyes. But I will say you're absolutely right with the, you're looking at what I would say is a light blue and black, or a medium green and black. And that contrast, right, is, I would say, the pro would go to the white tubes. However, man, I'm a green guy, I would, I do want to get a white one day, but I'm a green guy. I've always used green. I'm used to green, right? So for me, I would recommend to anyone, all things being equal, the green isn't worse and it's cheaper, right? So if you were looking to save a few bucks, right, you could probably go with green. However, if you're on the Instagram and, you need some night vision pictures to match your Cry airframe and Cry plate carrier, even though that's not what you do for a living, you want the white. You want the white, dog. You want the white.
Exactly.
It's better for pictures.
Yep.
We talked about this. I want to get a white 14 just so like if I'm hand holding stuff or I could take some pictures, video with it, right? I want it for that more than actual goggles that I'm going to go out hunting with. Okay, so kind of entry level stuff is $3,500, right? And then, okay, what do you think the next level to this is, right? Okay, so what we haven't talked about is laser. Let's talk about entry level laser stuff. You mentioned D-ball, right? Hey, just kind of state some of the bigger lasers out there that you guys sell.
Yeah, so I mean, the three main civilian brand lasers are D-ball, you have L3, and then you have the Mall from B. Myers. We are seeing Hollow Sun come to the table with some interesting lasers. I haven't had a chance to really test them out. Travis Haley at Haley Strategic swears by them. And a few other ones that still need to be T&E'd more before I give an opinion on. But those are the main ones, and we're looking into doing more test and evaluation on lasers because right now we're mainly focusing on night vision, but as this year progresses, we want to provide more lasers for our market and audience.
Yeah, I have a collection of lasers going back to the ITPEL, which was before the ATPEL.
Yep.
I have a collection. You know, anytime I see a beat up one, kind of, you know, guys getting rid of it, or it's older, or I've bought it, and I kind of have, I wouldn't say every laser produced, but I have a lot of lasers, and most of them I don't even mount. I leave them unmounted, and then when I teach a night vision class, I just throw them all on the table, and you can compare yourself. You know what I mean? You could compare the ATPEL to the ITPEL. You could compare, you know, the ATPEL to the Mall. You could compare, you know what I mean? I even have what is it, 16, the Marine Corps one that had a white light on it.
Yep.
You could compare to that, right? Like, so, I'm always in the, laser market per se. And there's a lot of good stuff out there. A buddy of mine just bought that new Hollow Sun. I think it's smart on a lot of levels. I think it's the right size. I haven't used it yet. I'd also say those Russian lasers.
Purse.
Yeah, the Purse. I have a buddy that has both of the ones they make, and he has zero complaints out of it. Matter of fact, he says it's smart, and I'm probably going to borrow them and check them out. But me personally, with lasers, the weak part for all these lasers is the floodlight.
Yep.
And I would also include the Mall in that because it goes the other way. The floodlight is so bright, it's going to gate your tubes and make it hard to see what you were looking at.
Right. And a lot of that is an issue due to the FDA restrictions with civilian lasers. I mean, for instance, like the Wilcox grades we have, the illuminator is fully adjustable power-wise for if you need to really punch out there or if you want it up close. So I don't really see any future in the civilian laser side that's going to really benefit us. We kind of have to work with what we got and make the best of it. We do have infrared vampire lights and other options available for illumination.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with you, but I'd also say for, you know, the civilian market, the military, right, like lasers are unrestricted. They can do what they want. I never felt like on my ATPELs or even the ITPEL, like my floodlight was weak. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I always kept the floodlight, like I'd set it up, I'd adjust it to where it was about a 4 foot to 6 foot ring around the laser at all times. That way it wasn't too much light, it wasn't too little. And, you know, so I never felt like the laser was underpowered, but the civilian lasers are. And I think the only people getting the civilian floodlight right is Surefire with them vampires.
Yep. Mod
those things.
Job.
Yeah.
At the same time, some of their lights are a little bit too bright and they're causing tube to decay down. So the only thing you're seeing is where you're actually illuminating.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of the Surefire. I want to get the new Surefire. What is it? The LV2. You know which one I'm talking about?
The new pistol light or the new?
Yeah, the new pistol one.
Yeah.
I think that's smart on a lot of levels, but I'm also a big fan of the X400. I think it's a kind of best bang for the buck. You know, cause it's got the vampire light, which the vampire is good IR light if you're doing something. And, you know, it's got the 1 watt laser, the civilian laser, but the truth is civilian lasers are good to 100 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And what I would say with that is, well, fuck, man, you couldn't positively ID something at 200 yards, so why you need a laser that goes 600 yards? You know what I mean? Like, I always felt like, I always felt like the Appel laser was, you know, and I got used to it, but I felt like the laser was always too bright for the floodlight, you know, and there was no, you know, and it's a settings issue, right? Because I would want the super dim laser with the super bright light, and then I could make that light, floodlight, a bigger ring, diffusing the light. And, you know, that's not a setting. It's either high or low. You can't have low laser, high flood, right? And I think it was a setting thing, but at the same time, like, I always felt like the laser was sometimes too bright and the floodlight never kind of had any issues with. And that's why I like the Surefire, because that vampire light is kind of, your floodlight is independent of the laser itself. I think the laser is a touch weak, right? But, you know, civilian laser, but it'll get you to 100 yards. And honestly, like, at night with night vision, why would you want to shoot farther than that?
Right. I agree. A general rule of thumb, your engagements are going to be inside of 100.
Right. And I would also say this to law enforcement officers, you know, if you could use the laser to 100, you could see well at 100, right? I still wouldn't shoot at 100 for liability reasons or anything. I would want to be absolutely 100% of what's going on. So if it's dark and I could close 50 yards off and be at 50 yards, I could see more and I could do better.
Absolutely, especially when they don't have night vision, because you have the element of surprise.
Right. And I'll tell you this is like, man, I've killed a lot of critters at night. And, you know, anytime where guys, you know, we're walking up on this massive herd of hogs, you know, every time we get about 50 yards, guys want to start shooting. It's like, no, resist the urge right now, promise you. And let's walk up to 10 yards, because they make so much noise, they're not going to hear us, right? They make so much noise and they're so busy, they're not going to see us because it's dark. And at 10 yards, you could drop a bunch. At 50 yards, you're only going to drop 1 or 2 and they're going to run off, you know? Exactly. So I'm always, let's move up on these schools. And, you know, we did that in Iraq as well all the time. Okay, so, let's talk about the D-ball. I gotta be honest, I have a few D-balls. I've never really been super impressed with the D-ball.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a huge D-ball guy.
I think the prices are generally right on those.
Yep.
And I think they're fairly priced, and I think it'd be great for a beginner, but, I'm not a big fan of the switches, like how they kind of work. I don't like their floodlights. I think are inherently weak, even the mil spec ones that I have. And I don't know. I've just never been a big fan. I've had them, I use them, like, but it's always kind of like, meh, you know what I mean?
Yep. No, I agree. I'm not a huge D-ball lover. They tend to be overcomplicated with the switches. They usually sit kind of funny on your rifle. They sit high. Now, that being said, the L3 capital C definitely has some issues, with not having the ability to illuminate, because it is not really using a laser that is, it's not focusable, and it's an LED laser illuminator. It's not using a laser diode, so it's really very weak illumination.
That's the civilian APAL ain't great either. And that's why I always tell guys the best bang for the buck in the civilian market is the Surefire.
Right.
But having said that, is like, we can go back to what I said originally was, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to do with it? You know, I'd also say this is like, there's some really small. Now, one of the things I like that Steiner does is the CQTL, which is just the laser top mounted of the rifle.
Yep.
That with a Vampire Surefire light, that is not a bad size and combo in the civilian market. Right.
No, it's awesome. So.
Yeah. I'd also say this is another thing I really like that I tell all the guys to buy one. If you want an IR flood, right? The Luna. You ever use the Luna?
I have not used the Luna much.
They're cheap, and allegedly, I'll say this for legal reasons, there's filters in it, and allegedly, if you take the filters out, it is a fucking killer floodlight, allegedly. I really like those, but the problem is, you know, it's the size of like an old school AA Maglite.
Right.
And so you'd have to have that. You'd have to have a laser, and then you'd have to have a white light.
Right. And by the time you have that, you have a lot of stuff put on your rifle.
Right. Now, I would say this is, I have had buddies, and I keep a mount on my helmet for it, is you mount the Luna on your helmet. So, you know, you got helmet mounted floodlight, and then you could have less stuff on the rifle. That's not a bad option. I have a few buddies that hunt like that with their Luna. Mm-hmm. Right. So, and you know, it's kind of amazing, but you know, a lot of people think with night vision, well, you just go in the dark and it's going to work. And if you think that, let me tell you how night vision works. It amplifies any ambient light to make you see in the dark. But the truth is, if there's no light at all, you're not going to see anything with night vision even still, right? So yep. a lot of times it's good to have an IR flood that, you know, kind of illuminates where whatever you're looking or working or, and so, I'm a big fan of having a good flood, but, so many different combos out there, you know, and look, for the entry guy, I would recommend the D-ball like you, like, yeah, okay, they may not be the best, but it's kind of best bang for the buck entry level stuff. And then later, if you knew a little bit more or you had buddies and you could test or try other stuff, maybe there's another laser you like better. Or the Surefire, like the D-ball or the Surefire would be good entry level stuff. Now, kind of new to the game, like you said, I personally think is the Holosuns. And I think those guys are starting to make I think those guys are making stuff, not that anything they made was bad. I think they're starting to get recognized a little bit more instead of like, the gun industry loves these tads where this is the industry standard, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, and anything else completely sucks. You know what I mean? And it's like, we used to joke about this all the time, and guys are like, hey, you seen this new piece of gear? That thing sucks. You ever try it? No, it just sucks. Like, dude, shut up. Fucking try it. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. I don't know, but like, new isn't always bad.
Right. Yep.
So, I think Hollow Sun, they're just, I think their first gen lasers were okay, but some of the newer ones, because of size and packaging, I think they're not too bad, even though I, like you, don't have a lot of experience with them.
Right. Yeah, no, I'd like to do a lot more test evaluation on them and give people a more educated opinion.
Yeah, completely agree, right? And I think, look, and it's such a great point with the night vision stuff, but this is anything in the gun industry is a guy gets a widget from company X, and then he's got to put out a video because he needs to be the first one to put out a video on this because, this is how marketing and this is how he makes his money. And I'm not blaming that guy at all. But what you end up getting is you get every video is just initial impression.
Right.
And then I always chuckle because I'm like, let's see the 1 year later videos of how much of this stuff actually, like, guys are still going, I rock this every day. Oh, okay. A year later, still rocking it every day?
Yep.
Let me check that out.
And when it's sponsored items, it's have bias because they can't give a negative one when it was given.
Right.
So.
Right. First world problems. That's what I call that.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. So let's talk about what would be the next budget marker, right? So we got the guy buying a 14, right? He has enough for 14. Maybe he gets a good mount. Maybe he saves some money on a mount and helmet and does used stuff, right? But what do you think the next level, what's the next point for this?
Well, the next point I would say would be deciding if you want to go light phosphor or PBS 14 or want to do lower end dual in green. So.
Let's talk about the lower end dual. What's out there these days?
So lower end duals are going to run you basically 5,500 minimum to 65. And that's going to get you either Amethyst or RNG. And I know you love the Amethyst goggles.
I do. I love them. Yeah. Okay. So you're looking at 55 to 65. Still need a helmet. Still need a mount.
Yep.
So probably take you from maybe 65 to 75 with a helmet and a mount.
Yeah, I would say you can easily get a very nice G24 mount helmet counterweight for $1,000. So I would say 65 to 75, depending on what you do it with for a full setup.
And that gets you, the big thing is dual tubes, right? And
yep.
I just think it's, every time I do the one eye stuff at night, and there's times where like I'll give a buddy, my helmet, my good stuff. So I'll be like, give me that thing, right? Like I can survive just doing a handheld 14 or something. And every time I do that, I'm like so appreciative of wearing goggles. And I would say this is scientifically, the human eye is made to use in stereo. Both your eyes together at all times. That's how human beings work. And that's why fundamentally I understand the 14, but at the same time scientifically, like if money wasn't an option, right? If night vision was dirt cheap no matter what, right? Like something you could go pick up at Walmart, like let's just say it was. The 14 wouldn't exist because everyone would just be getting dual.
Right. Well, your perceivable depth perception is way greater with duals than it is with a binocular.
Right. Okay, so that gets you kind of green tube, dual setup. You got your helmet. Now, okay, next level lasers. What would you say?
If you're staying in the civilian world, I would say D-ball A3, or if you really want to splurge, get a T Myers Mall. I hate seeing people spend $2,500 on a civilian laser. I think it's outrageous for what you're getting, but that's just my opinion.
I don't disagree at all. I bought one of the first civilian D-balls or malls that came out. Like, I was on the list. I got one of the first ones. And look, as a soldier, if it does the same thing and the next one is smaller and lighter, I'm happy with that. You know what I mean? Like, it does the same thing. It's smaller and lighter. That's moving in the right direction. Right? I don't think for the money that the mall costs that it's worth it to a regular guy. I just don't.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now, if a mall was, same price as the D-ball A3 or the same price as a Surefire, right? I would be like, fuck yeah, rock that shit.
Right.
But
I mean, if the mall was $1,500, I would sell them all day long. And
for sure.
Still totally comfortable.
For sure. I completely agree. Yeah, I always tell guys, sometimes it's not about what the internet says is great. It's about what are you doing and what might work for you. Okay, so and then look, that next level, if you go to, higher end laser, right? Is that laser included in the 65 to 75?
Not really, no. Cause
so that just be the night vision. Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're running, you can run past for a while to save up money for a laser.
Oh yeah, man, I will, that's one of the things I always did is every time I went to the range, I was training, looking through my night vision, looking through my EOTech, shooting targets, right? And I would say this is, I think using night vision with a red dot is underrated because it's so easy to see the red dot if you bring the gun up to the face. You know what I mean? And I would also say is I'm not a fan of red dots on pistols for concealed carry or the average guy, but you got a red dot on a pistol, you get that thing in front of the night vision, and now you are serious. This is some serious night capability, I would say. So, yeah, I would tell anyone if they were willing to train a little bit, a laser's not a huge must have, right? But, it is, if you had a laser, you wouldn't even have to bring the rifle up to your face. You could just put the laser on and shoot from the hip.
Exactly. So yeah, I guess in my opinion, if you already have Neotech or an aim point, I would get an illuminator first, like a Surefire IR light, and then I get a laser.
I completely agree with you. Completely agree with that, right? And I'll tell you, man, I am really impressed with the Vampire, like one package, IR or white, right? I think the Surefire it's amazing how well the IR light is through those flashlights, right? White light, yeah, that's pretty easy. Everyone does. But I'm always amazed at how well they're doing the IR.
Absolutely.
Okay, so next level, you want to be the Mac Daddy or the popular guy. What are you buying? What does that run?
If you want to be the ultimate, probably your two civilian options are going to be, in my opinion, a set of DTNVGs with canvas glass in the front, depth glass in the rear, and or PVS 15s with some stellar unfilmed bifosfor tubes. And those are both going to run you in the $12,000 range for just the goggles. I mean, they could be cheaper. It depends on what level. Unfilmed 15s run from about 11, 12.5. Then unfilmed DTNVGs run from about 10 to 12, depending on what kind of upgrade you do.
So I'm kind of new to the DTNVG, so explain that one.
So the DTNVGs are equivalent, civilian equivalent to the 31 in a way. They articulate like 31, so they'll articulate up flat or past flat. And you can flip them up, they'll rotate back onto your helmet. The nice thing, in my opinion, about DTNVGs 31 is if you're running them in the down position and you rotate the pods up, your pods stay in your peripheral view. You can always see where they're at. They also cause less neck strain when they are flipped down because it's more even on your helmet versus the leverage being out farther. The weak spot is the fact that they have hinges. So that is a opportunity for them to break when impacted. We don't see it super often. We have seen a few sets break that have bit the dust and snap at the hinge. Much more with DTNVGs than PVS 15. So, but all around, they're a great goggle.
Are they all using the same tube?
Yeah, so PVS 15 and this is PVS 14, PVS 31s, they all use the same diameter of tube. Depending if they're manual gain, they'll use a MX 11769. If they are a fixed gain or auto gain, then they're a 10160.
So they all use the same tubes pretty much.
Yes, in essence, they all use the same tube. I mean, you're going to get the exact same performance out of them all. There's just different levels of each tube. So the civilian world ComSpec tubes, they come with data sheets. You have your thin film, you have your film, which is the bottom of the line. Then you have your thin film. Then you have your film list. And then you have different grades of film list on how high your specs are. And then with military, they do it in a different way. They don't have spec sheets. They have omnis, which is in essence their spec minimum. And as long as a tube beats that minimum or meets it, it is qualified as that omni.
Neat. Yeah, I know when I was going to the night vision labs and like the scientists were explaining shit to me, it was always kind of like, I'd have to take a deep breath, like, you know what I mean? Yep. Like, say that again. And, I would say this is, kind of the premise behind why they even had a job like mine is, sometimes the scientists would come up with shit, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh my God, you guys gotta see this. And you're like, oh man, this is awesome. Yeah, what happened if it got hit by a bullet, like someone was shooting at me? Oh yeah, it'd explode, like, 10 grenades going off next to your face. And like, I'd be like, I had a scientist tell me that and I was like, yeah, I don't want to carry that. And then like, I was, of course, the bad guy, you know what I mean? But like, the scientists, as we talk to them, they always speak a little bit different language. And that's just the way it is, right? So, yeah, man. Okay, so, oh man, if you're listening to this and you want to get into entry level stuff, like we'll kind of recap this for you guys. That way, if you're listening, you can kind of go look this up, Google it on the internet, right? So if you want to get in entry level, probably be about, what'd we say, $3,500?
Yep.
And you're looking at a PVS 14, which is a handheld or mono tube, goggle. It's called a PBS-14. You can Google it. You could either get you could shop around for a used Army mount, right? Or what was the mount you told guys to look at?
A G24 and a Wilcox arm.
G24 and a Wilcox arm. There you go. Helmets. What do you recommend for a helmet?
I personally recommend the Team Wendy bump helmet. They are the most comfortable out of the box helmet that I've found for bump. They run about $300. My philosophy on helmets is if you buy nice kit, skimp on your helmet, it's not going to make your kit enjoyable to wear. So it's like buying a really nice backpack and coat and pants, but then buying Dollar General shoes. You're not going to want to go out public or go on a hike with those shoes on, even though you have top of the line rest of the stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm an Ops Corps guy. I don't do Team Wendy stuff for their political leaning, but I'm not against Team Wendy, and I got a bunch of guys who buy this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm an Ops Corps guy because I was buying helmets before Team Wendy was around.
Right. And I don't agree with Team Wendy's political viewpoints on that, but at the same time, every company makes mistakes. It's just,
yeah.
not everybody's company, their mistakes don't come to light. I mean, I'm sure Ops Corps made their fair share of mistakes. They just haven't come to light, so we haven't seen them. Team Wendy realized they screwed up. They just about lost their business over it. They went from a thriving business to like 3 or 4 employees from what I heard to now they're finally back to getting back on their feet.
Yeah. So no, I got a bunch of guys buy Team Wendy stuff. I'm an Ops Corps guy, and man, I don't know. I had Ops Corps helmets for when they were like the only one making the lightweight plastic. They were the first ones to make a lightweight plastic helmet with and most of my helmets, like, I didn't even have to buy. They were just given to me for work,
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And then, let's see, laser, entry level laser. The guy wants to look it up.
Probably a D-Ball I2 is going to be your entry level.
Yeah, or the I always recommend the Surefire IRC X400. They also got a new one out, but I wouldn't call that entry level because it's more expensive.
Yep.
Okay, next level, 65 to 75 gets you a set of dual tube goggles, right? And that'll get you the Anvis, or what was the other one you said?
The RNVGs.
RNVGs. And what about a mount for those?
I would still recommend the G24 mount for the RNVGs. And then if you're going to do Anvis, probably a G1 mount.
All right. And, helmets are the same, right? Team Wendy, Ops Corps, any plastic. A lot of plastic helmets these days have the night vision clip in the front. You just need to make sure you get the right mount. And then lasers for the next level, guys.
Yeah, so the next level, civilian world, I would say is T-Ball A3, because you have the slave laser. So, for those of you that don't know what that is, that when you sight in your visible laser, it'll also sight in your infrared laser.
Man, that's such a great point. That way you can zero your shit during the day and know your laser's on at night.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, kind of a side note to that is, I like, I'm a red guy, right? Red laser, but what I do like about the green laser is if you're using a red dot and you have a green laser and you're trying to zero, you could kind of, let's just say you want to zero it at 100 yards. It's easier to see the green laser underneath the red dot or around the red dot than it is a red laser with the red dot. If you're trying to do a quick daytime zero, use your red dot to zero the laser.
Absolutely.
But not all my lasers are green, and it's not like you can't do it with red. It's just the first green laser I got, I was like, wow, yeah, that's easier a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because they're different colors. Okay. Man, great talk. Man, night vision. I love night vision. I think we should talk again about thermals, about, like, there's so much night vision we could talk about. But let's wrap this up. Hey, I'm John Shrek McPhee, the Sheriff of Baghdad, and I just wanted to do a podcast. I get so many entry-level questions, right? I wanted to talk to a night vision guy about where to start. Hey, I'll let you close us out. So tell the guys where they could find you or where they could hit you up if they're interested in entry level, in any night vision really. But I'll let you have the last word here and close us out. Tell the guys where they can find
you. Yeah, I'm Mike Garrison, and I'm the head salesman at Gear Central Supply. You can find us online at gearcentralsupply.com or Instagram at Gear Central Supply. We're happy to help you with any of your night vision needs or the questions you might have. Just let us know.
All right, man. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. And if for the guys that are listening, we will be talking more night vision and higher level night vision at another time. So stand by for those podcasts. All right. Thanks, man. I'll talk to you later.
Yep. Thank you.